89 or 99. Jim McFarland gave a very nice presentation here on the railroads in the area, and got me further enthused in the Amherst, Belchertown, and Palmer, and the New London Northern. I knew about the New London Northern, but I didn't know about the Amherst, Belchertown, and the Amherst, Belchertown, and Palmer. The logo on the left comes from the maps that you're going to see here in a few moments. The Amherst, Belchertown, and Palmer logo was something that I put together in anticipating of doing an HO scale railroad that never got done.
It looks familiar somehow. The angle, just something about it looks. The color, the colors too.
24-degree angle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we're going to look at today, I took and combined early timelines of the New London, Willimantic, and Palmer, and the Amherst and Belchertown and Palmer Railroads. I've got engineers' maps of proposed routes for New London, Willimantic, and Palmer, and Amherst and Belchertown and Palmer Railroads. The 1879 maps of the New London Northern from State Line to Amherst, Mass. We had last looked at some of these, I think, in Willimantic a few years ago. A little bit of refresher on locomotives, the Amherst, Belchertown, and Palmer, and a little bit of related Amphoria. Okay. The New London, Willimantic, and Springfield was actually the predecessor to the New London, Willimantic, and Palmer. It was chartered in 1847. Ground was broken a little north of Norwich in 1848. In 1849, the stockholders of the New London, Willimantic, and Springfield, actually at that point, the New London, Willimantic, and Springfield voted to merge with the New London, Willimantic, and Palmer Railroad, which was a corporation formed in Massachusetts to get them from State Line up to Palmer. The directors received a report on a possible charter for a railroad between Montague and Palmer. This is New London Northern speaking, okay? In May of 1851, the Amherst and Belchertown Railroad was chartered. In June, it was formally organized. And then in August, the New London, Willimantic, and Palmer contracted for a lease of the Amherst and Belchertown when it's complete. Hadn't even been started. Okay? The stockholders of the New London, Willimantic, and Palmer approved the lease in 1851. Amherst and Belchertown ground was broken in the Hopetown section of Belchertown. I'm not sure exactly where that is. 1852, the president of the New London, Willimantic, and Palmer authorized to sign a contract for the lease of the Amherst and Belchertown. Okay, and then in April, they asked for permission of the legislature to subscribe to the stock of the Amherst and Belchertown to complete it, hopefully, to Montague. In November of 1852, it was reported that 100 passengers left Amherst for Palmer. This was the first known movement over the road. In December, the board authorizes the president, again, of New London, Willimantic, and Palmer, to make arrangements for operating the Amherst and Belchertown. They're supposed to start this on Monday, January 3rd of 1853. Well, that didn't go off too well. In January, also of 1853, they request from the New London, Willimantic, and Palmer provide them a connecting track to the Western Railroad on the south side of said road, as well as use of other yard tracks. And we'll see more of that track layout in a bit. Now, March of 1853, the president, New London, Willimantic, and Palmer, has been authorized to sell the stock of the Amherst and Belchertown Railroad that they held. Okay? Then in April, first freight train reached Amherst. They were supposed to start operating back in January. First regular passenger train in May. In November of that year, they found the lease unsatisfactory and returned operation of the Amherst and Belchertown to the management to operate with their own equipment. And then in April of 1856, London, Willimantic, and Palmer is in tough straits of its own. They're looking to have the legislature allow them to sail release of the road. Now, back under their own control in January of 1858, the A&B management defaulted on the bonds and the trustees take possession. October, it was sold at auction, the trustees bought it back and formed the Amherst Belchertown Palmer. In 1859, the London, Willimantic, and Palmer was surrendered to the trustees. And so in 1860, the New London Northern Railroad was formed. In June of 1862, it had been under operation from the trustees until this date. And then they leased it to two individuals for 5 years. But the trustees canceled that lease in August of 1863. And then finally on February of 1864, New London Northern was authorized to purchase the Amherst and Belchertown and Palmer Railroad. Now, in 1886, finally, the connection from Amherst to Montague was completed by the New London Northern. December 1 of 1871, the New London and Ware River Railroads, which were leased to the Vermont Central, and then in 1877, Central Mass Railroad completed, Palmer Richardson Station constructed. It's of note that there was 3 attempts to bring a railroad to Amherst prior to all this. There was the Hampshire and Franklin in 1845, Mount Holyoke Railroad, 1846 to 1848, and then supposedly an Amherst Branch Railroad in 1848. Now, I have this New London and Springfield Railroad map I have in the back here on display. And you can see on this blow up on the side, all the different routes that they were considering at that time. Because again, it was the New London, Willimantic, and Springfield Road initially. And you can see in the lower corner here where it says S and New London Railroad coming in, basically coming into Springfield along a route that was later done by the New Haven, the branch that went down. Armory Branch, yep. And then this map, it doesn't show very well. This is available online. This is an 1849 of a plan of railroad route and profile from Palmer to Grout's Corners. And there's several different routes in this as well. And it's very difficult to read. And so I'm just basically glossing over it. But this was from Palmer, again, to Montague. All right, now we've got some maps. These say 1880. These maps are at UVM. I'm going to show you the primary major issues of these maps, major places. This actually says 1879 on both of them on the inside page. They have, obviously detailed records of where and how these pieces of property were. And then we left off, I think, at state line before. These maps, by the way, are approximately 24 by 36 inches in size. They're on paper that probably measures close to 1/32 of an inch thick, and they could not be scanned. They could only be photographed. And so I did a considerable amount of work on these. Here we are coming into South Munson. You can just see the siding. Let's see. This is one of the photographs that I have of the station in South Munson. And then we're coming into Munson. The Munson map was folded over, so it's roughly, 8 feet long. And there's the Munson station at one point in time.
Is that the granite?
And then we
quarry?
got the flint quarry here. We got more of that coming. And here we can see the flint quarry coming off and the end of the passing siding here in Munson. This is basically on the left-hand side. This is a map that my father originally traced, and I haven't been able to find the original since then. But basically, it came off the New London Northern Main Line, came up and kind of did a little switchback thing, and I lived right in here for most of my younger life. And then we've got a couple of postcards. I suspect this is a New London Northern locomotive sitting here with a B&A flat car up in the quarry. But they're I've seen lots of pictures. I haven't been able to find them online. Here we are in North Munson, what was BB Manufacturing Company. I knew as church seats back in the day. They made a composite, basically toilet seat. North Munson number 2. See a little village there, some bridges. And then here we are, we're just about heading into Palmer. The note here being Munson State Primary School was actually Munson State, it was a hospital. This is Palmer. It's very tough to read.
Yeah, that's quite the script.
Wait till you see the next one. So this is the primary area of the junction. We've got the Ware River Railroad coming in. We've got the Boston and Albany, which is 4 tracks wide down here by the station. We've got the New London Northern Station, and we've got a coal shed. And this is the, I believe, Ware River Railroad. We have an engine house over here. This is part of something that I found in digging up, trying to find pictures of these various locations. I talked with a gentleman by the name of Bud Hill. He provided me with this postcard that you see in the back of that has a track arrangement on it that pretty much identically matches the track layout in front of the New London Northern Depot in this plan. And this photograph has appeared in the CV books. It's in the Palmer Book of 7 Railroads, attributed to being the Western Depot. However, I've talked with a couple people from that organization and shown them this picture, and they tend to agree with me now that this track layout is only possible on the New London Northern side of things. It was attributed in the Town of 7 Railroads book as being the Western Station. This is clearly a New London Northern locomotive. It's the Benjamin Stark, and it's got a 3-car passenger train on it. And the interesting thing to me, this appears to be an opening in the building for, I'm not sure what's going on over here.
Like a boxcar, yeah.
There's no doors. You know, I don't really know what the story is. The sign is purported to be that of an eating house. And that was one of the reasons that some people thought that this was the Western Station, because they had a similar eating house in East Brookfield. But back in this time frame, I mean, we're talking 1983, railroads had eating houses in a lot of places. 1883, excuse me. Now, this photo right here was in the RNLH Bulletin in September 1938, considered to be the original Palmer Station. Well, if you look at this building, you can see that this has very, very high doors all the way down the side of the building. And then look at all the openings on the bottom here. Okay? I firmly believe that this is the coal shed that we saw in the picture. Okay? We haven't been able to back it up with anything, but this seems to fit the scenario because, you know, there was a track down behind this in the track plan, and you know, don't really know for sure. The other picture here on the side came from Phil Johnson. It shows the Flint House in the background, which is still there because we saw that in John's video. I believe this is the water plug that was, well, let me go back. There's a water plug right here, and I think that that quite possibly is the water plug which remains of that, and that the station would have been in between that, and probably the Flint House was put in, I would say, after the station was removed. And Bob Belzecki put me onto this, and this basically gives you some idea of what the western station might have looked like. The CV station here, interesting, it doesn't show a coal shed, but this is dated from a similar time frame. So, and then you got the Ware River Railroad coming in. All right, continuing on, we've got the Ware River heading up, long tangent section where they do the interchange these days. And it curves around. And here's where the Ware River departs, and this heads over towards Three Rivers. In Three Rivers, this was the original station. It was right in here. You notice that we've got another railroad coming in. And shortly after that, the first set of maps ends here at the Hampshire County and Hampden county line, and we start with the second group of maps. And again, the same alignment stuff. And we see now the other side where we pick back up where Palmer and Belchertown meet. And the Springfield Atholol Northeastern is still coming into us here. And we arrive at Barrett's Junction. We're coming into Belchertown. I put this neat little,
Yeah, so you see the roadways on the north side of the station, the bridge, the original bridge.
yeah. This is all before the Central Mass, because the Central Mass wasn't built yet. And next up the road, we have Dwight's. The Amherst Belchertown Town Line. We're coming into South Amherst. And again, if you could tell me that that says Amherst, it's amazing.
Yeah,
So-
so that shows the turntable there, and
I don't see a water tower though.
Great House is at the, in between the siding and the main line. And the water tower would have been on the other side of Railroad Street.
I wonder if that wasn't in this triangle right here.
Yeah, it was in that triangle there, but it's not showing it yet.
Yeah. Now this is as far as UVM has maps for. I looked to go from Amherst to up to Montague or Grout's Corner. They don't think they have them. They may have been done in a different format and didn't come to them. So we'll do a quick roster of Amherst and Belchertown locomotives. There was 5 potential locomotives at one point in time. Not a lot of information on them. A little bit of hardware that I have on the new one, the Northern. T.F. Williams basically is probably a similar photo of a period Taunton locomotive works like the first Amherst. This woodcut, again, came out of the Railroad and Locomotive Historic Society bulletin, may represent the first, the second Amherst. The Bates, not much is known about it, except for that it was on a passenger train at one point in time and somebody was late for the station and was able to chase the train down and get aboard because the Bates was on it. This locomotive was built by Souther. It was originally the Vermont, ended up working on the New London Northern, and then was later renamed the Ware for use on the Ware River Railroad, I believe, while the New London Northern was under the New London Northern control. I was happy to see some of these same stock certificates over on the table here this morning. This one I got from, I believe, from Jim McFarland. This one I actually own, 35 shares to Amherst College back in the day. And I thought that was kind of interesting. I actually bought this one, boy, probably 20, 25 years ago now. I haven't seen another one since. Over here, interesting pass that I shared with Phil. New London Northern and Ware River Railroads. I don't know that there was too many years that that was actually in effect because I don't think they leased it for more than a couple of years. New London Northern pass at the time. I've got a fairly good collection of waybills. And up at top, this one was from Palmer to Chester, Vermont. The unfortunate thing of all the waybills that I have, they all end at Chester, Vermont. Okay, typical clearance card at the time. A couple more waybills. The Boston, Maine one was the interesting one because I put this New London Northern and Belchertown stamp on it because it went through there. Again, another waybill Palmer. This was kind of the ticket at the time. This was dates from 1888. Again, some more waybill information. Top one from the steamer came from out of New York and went to Chester, Vermont. This is one of my favorite waybills because you can see it's been written on a gazillion times. Somewhere, yeah, here it says there's corn. So this was commodity. It was certified by the Board of Trade for weight. It was, I'm not sure where it was originally supposed to go, but it was supposed to go somewhere in Mass. Ended up going to Chester, Vermont.
Looks like Boston.
Boston.
Yeah, Boston.
Boston.
So, I mean, this has got stamps from anybody and everybody. Wabash Railroad, you know, it's just amazing.
Well, they did have what the diversion, so you can always divert a car.
Well, that's what this is reflective of.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, that's milling in transit.
This is the caboose. It's that I lettered earlier this year. They've been able to go through and do a little bit more of the orange painting on the ends, and they've started painting the brown on the steps, and you're getting to look like a nice caboose. It's still missing the ladders and a few other things, but
So that's in Potter's Place?
this is the caboose at Potter's Place that was in the article in the last Ambassador. Geez, I did it in a half an hour.
Did I?